what type of job can I get as a data scientist? Well, obviously, you can get a data scientist position, a data engineer position, which, like I was just saying, is probably going to be very a likable position, desirable position, and companies are going to be looking for more people that have both skill sets in the future. Someone that can, understand, like I was saying, what the data is saying, how to make better decisions, and then you also need someone that can actually build the thing and keep it up and running and make it look good and make people want to use it, right? So they're also data analyst, just cleaning data, things like that. Also machine learning engineer or machine learning specialist. That's obviously where also that sort of industry is heading with everything that we can do with AI up to this point, and augmented reality, virtual reality. It's really remarkable, all the things that we can do. You can also become a developer as well if you just feel like that's maybe where my focus should be. I'm better at just making things look good, but there's lots of different avenues that you can take from a data science career, not just a data scientist. You can go over and be a web developer. You can focus and specialize on machine learning. You can really specialize in just data analysis if you really like cleaning the data and everything like that. But lots of different jobs that you can get. Some other skills and backgrounds from a non-technical standpoint that people might not think about. Really, if you have sort of a curious mindset, you like doing research, you like seeing how things work under the hood, then data science might be a good place for you. If you have any background in math, probability statistics, it just gives you a leg up because you do obviously need to learn quite a few algorithms and things and have some understanding of statistics, a good solid background in that to really be successful as a data scientist. Or also finance, accounting, being able to communicate mathematical ideas on any scale. Very, very helpful, but don't overlook as well soft skills. Like if you've ever done theater like me or music or anything like that, those soft skills, collaboration, communication are paramount for not only data scientists, but also software engineers and everybody in the tech world. Got to make sure that we're all on the same page, right? And then also if you've ever been in the service industry or you've been a teacher, like I did for a bit of time as well, those problem solving skills, those adaptability skills will serve you so, so well, right? Because it's not like, you make one good, great analysis on the data and then it's done, right? You have to keep adapting as the data changes, the product changes, the user group might kind of change. You might be trying to reach a different audience. So being adaptable, having strong problem solving skills, a curious mindset, being able to collaborate well, communicate, all of those non-technical skills will really help you if you want to sort of go down this path of data science. And how does Galvanize really help? Personal branding, networking. So really understanding what specifically do you want to do? Is it just that you want to be a data analyst and you really want to just focus on data cleaning and just sort of maintaining the data set and the databases and everything? Or do you want to do machine learning? So understanding where you want to go and how to brand yourself, how to make your resume look, your portfolio, what types of projects to do. We focus on that. How to network, especially given this virtual landscape that we are all still inhabiting. Very important to be able to be comfortable reaching out to people that you don't know, leveraging the relationships that you do have. We go all over that. Constant mock interviews as well, building up those muscle memories of just getting in that space and being comfortable whiteboarding, solving problems in front of people, alumni referrals, one-on-one coaching with our career services. Afterwards, 6 months of that as well. So we do a lot to really help people figure out exactly the specific avenue that they want to take within data science, and then how to make yourself stand out against the rest of the candidates. I wanted to give a big overview of the curriculum really quick. Weeks 1 through 4 are really all about Python fundamentals, and being able to explain your reasoning in statistics as well, and probability. That's weeks 1 through 4, really just getting strong, being able to write Python, read it, understand it, how you can manipulate data using it, all that sorts of good stuff. And then you have a capstone that is really focused just on that, Python and statistics, and being able to explain your reasoning. The mid chunk of our data science program, weeks 5 through 8, gets into machine learning a little bit more, and the things that you need to do, supervised learning versus unsupervised learning. So obviously supervised learning is where you have a labeled data set, so that the machine learning algorithm, the model, it can sort of make predictions and find patterns based off data, like answers that are already there, so they can make informed decisions because some of the data is labeled. Unsupervised is where the data is not labeled at all, and you just let the computer machine learning algorithm sort of figure out for itself. But so that's what the mid-size of the program is all about, really beefing up those algorithm skills, those machine learning skills, all those sorts of things. And then the last part of the program is all about your final capstone, and then getting into data science special topics, like recommender systems, like how you see things on Netflix or Spotify, like, hey, you watch this, maybe you'd like this as well. Things like that, and being able to tackle those sorts of things, because that's very important as well, obviously, too, right? You want to be able to give people the best data and the best user experience possible. What type of job can I get as a software engineer, and what backgrounds maybe might be good for this space? You can be a front-end engineer if you really like just focusing on making things look good, using CSS, things like that, manipulating the HTML, what is actually on the page. You can be a back-end engineer or a back-end developer if you really sort of decide, I actually really like more just maintaining the database and being in charge of that and making sure that it's up and running smoothly and everything. Because obviously if the database, if the server's down, then the product, the website, the tool, the app, whatever it might be, doesn't work. You can be a full stack web developer. You can also end up in data science as well. Lots of different, again, just because you do a software engineering program or a data science program or a UX program for that matter, doesn't mean that that's the only path that you can take. What I'm trying to get at is that there's a very many paths that you can take. It's very flexible, depending on sort of what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and where you see your passions sort of aligning. Again, want to get into some non-technical skills and backgrounds and things as well. But first off, if you do have any visual design or graphic design experience, will definitely help you. If you've ever looked at HTML, ever looked at CSS, definitely is going to help you as a software engineer, because you have to have an understanding of HTML and CSS in order to be a software engineer, and then use JavaScript as well. On top of that, for the behavior of the website, marketing as well, or social media, a copywriter, if you have wherever an SEO specialist or anything like that, understanding how to generate and manage digital content, how things get stored, on Google and online in general, will definitely help you. Again, fine arts, theater, music, those collaboration skills, communicative skills, super, super paramount. Again, if you've ever been a teacher, again, adaptability, you might come into work one day and they're gonna be like, we are completely migrating to a different database, so we have to change up all those touch points between the server and the front end. Or it's just like, actually, that feature that we were gonna push out next week, we actually just heard from the executive team and we're gonna be pushing out these 2 features instead. And those things happen, and you just have to be able to be flexible and go, okay, cool, we're gonna work on that now. So just being able to adapt to your surroundings as things change. And then also maybe if you had a degree in law or business or anything like that, being able to communicate clear ideas about complex topics, because coding is really like a foreign language, whether it be in Python, whether it be in JavaScript, or even Ruby, which is a little bit more readable depending on who you talk to. But no matter what, it still is kind of like a foreign language. So the better you are at being able to easily communicate complex ideas, that's really going to serve you well down the line. But it's all about, at the end of the day, making things that work, function well, and look good. And what does Hack Reactor or Galvanize do to help? Similar to our data science program, really focusing on your GitHub. Employers and companies will check not only your GitHub to see what projects you have on there, what types of languages and things you've primarily been coding in, but they'll also look at your GitHub history. How often are you pushing code to GitHub? And when was the last time that you pushed code to GitHub? And if you apply for a job and you haven't pushed any code to GitHub in like the last 3-4 months, they're probably going to go with somebody else. They want to see that you are actively engaging in writing code and problem solving, all of those sorts of things. Again, understanding if you want to do front end, if you want to do back end, all of those things, figuring out your personal branding, what avenue specifically you want to end up taking, and you don't have to know that at the beginning of the program or even necessarily by the end, but just as long as you're thinking about that, like the types of jobs and the types of companies that you want to work for, we work on that as well. And then again, 6 months of career support with our career services manager, one-on-one coaching after the program as well, so that we're still checking in, making sure that things are going okay. If there's anything that we can help with, whether it's more mock interview practice or anything like that, or literally just having someone to talk to about the experience. It can be tough sometimes, especially when it's hard to really get down in front of somebody in an in-person interview. It's still right now. So if you're not hearing back from anybody, it can be tough. And so it's nice to just have someone else to bounce ideas off of, and just have someone to honestly vent to sometimes is good too. I wanted to go over the program structure for our SCI program now as well. And so before you even start day one of the immersive, there is 90 to 120 hours approximately of pre-course material. Just so you're also aware, the DSI pre-course is about 45 to 60 hours. And you might be wondering, why is the software engineering pre-course literally twice as long? It's just because, like I said, in order to be a software engineer, the prerequisites, you have to have a very strong foundation in HTML and CSS before you even start really getting into JavaScript. Because in order to use JavaScript, you have to know how to use HTML tags and all of your CSS and everything like that. So that's why it's a little bit longer, because you have to cover those materials first. So there's just more ground to cover before you even get to coding in JavaScript. And then we have our full-time 12-week program that is live online right now. And for our next cohorts will be as well. And then again, after the 12 weeks of the program, where you have a junior phase and a senior phase, then afterwards is the post-program job search, where you're working with your career services manager. Want to go over and break down the junior phase a little bit more, what you'll be focusing on. So really focusing on just computer science fundamentals and JavaScript fundamentals. And more than that, really getting you to start thinking like an engineer. And what I mean by that is having this mindset of, I'm always going to be in this space of things are broken, right? If you're coding something, it's because you're trying to fix something. As soon as the problem is done, there's no more coding, right? So getting comfortable being in this space of constantly problem solving, trying to improve things, maybe clean up your code, make it a little bit drier, a little bit more readable, right? So getting you to think like an engineer and be comfortable in that problem solving space, where it might seem like, to a certain extent, God, I'm just failing all the time. I'm trying all these things and it's not working. It's like, oh, actually you're coding. That's the life of an engineer. And then, like I talked about before, communication. The most important thing I would say is being able to communicate in your own words these topics, specifically in your own words, right? If you can look at someone else that has never taken a computer science course, never done a boot camp, and explain how MongoDB, the database, works and everything in your own words, then you are ready, I would say, to be able to utilize that database in your project. But you have to be able to explain it in your own words, right? And that can be difficult at times. And it's very, very important when you're working on group projects, which we get into more in the later part of the program, but have to have that communication, be able to explain what you're thinking, what you're working on, and why you are doing that. And then getting into, you know, like I said, those JavaScript fundamentals, ES6 syntax, so arrow function notation, things like that, using Node, Express, JS for the server side, and then SQL, MongoDB, other databases like Postgres, and then other cloud computing platforms like Heroku. So if you want to have your app or whatever hosted, you can do it on something like Heroku or AWS, something like that. But really just focusing on thinking like an engineer, precise communication in your own words, and just really getting those JavaScript fundamentals and computer science fundamentals down and comfortable with them. The second half is really focused on just bringing it all together and building applications from scratch. So literally going from jotting things down on a lined piece of paper. I think I want to use this database. I have this idea. I'm going to be using this framework, and literally going from that to completely building it out and getting it hosted on AWS. So really going through the complete experience and life cycle of an app. You'll have your front-end capstone, your MVP, but then also being able to start incorporating maybe new technologies that maybe we don't go over as much in the program, but being able to take in new material, because you're always going to be learning, right? I've heard of so many people that have ended up at companies after Galvanize's SCI program, the Hack Reactor program, where Java was the back-end language, and we don't teach Java. but it's like they really liked how strong that the person was in JavaScript and React specifically, and they hired them anyways. And the person had to pick up Java in a couple weeks, their first couple weeks on the job. So just understand that depending on where you end up, you might have to pick up another programming language, a new framework, a new database, maybe a couple different of them, but that's okay. You're constantly learning, constantly evolving. That's really the point. It's not like you do a boot camp and then you're done, right? You're done when you get the job. And then even once you get the job, maybe actually you're not even done, like I just said, because you might have to learn some new things. So just getting comfortable being in that space of I'm constantly learning, I'm constantly moving forward, and then looking at different sorts of workflows, agile workflow, and just, again, iterating, starting from scratch, having an idea, and then building it from there. And what is that process? And then the final week, that gets into your job search kickoff. So again, really starting to figure out, all right, let's at least sort of have a plan. If you still haven't finalized maybe the area that you want to go in, whether it's front end, back end, or heck, I'm just going to switch and do data science, but having a plan of the types of companies, the types of positions you're going to want to be looking for, and then going ahead and having a daily schedule. That's what I would also highly recommend as well. They get into it more at the end of our program, but have a schedule that you adhere to during your job search, because if you don't, I know for me personally, I always would end up in a zone where there would just be days where I wouldn't do as much as I would want to, and I would always do so much better and perform so much more efficiently if I just had a schedule and I just stuck to it. And I was like, nope, this is the schedule. And even though I'm tired right now, I'm maybe not feeling well, I'm just going to stick to it. So really going over that, having a schedule in mind, a system in place once you leave the boot camp and you're not communicating with your instructors, your other cohort mates every single day, building your resume, your cover letter, your online presence, right? And everything, going over how to negotiate offers, all of those sorts of things. And then post-grad as well, checking in even once you get a job. We do lots of events geared towards alumni as well, having them come back and speak if they want, doing happy hours for them as well. Want to make sure that that Galvanize Hack Reactor community is with you even once you get a job or the next job or the job after that.